34 years ago, Charles Chuck Stuart called 911 saying he and his pregnant wife, Carol, had been shot in their car and left for dead on a dark, deserted street in Boston. Cameras for the CBS docudrama Rescue 911 just happened to be shadowing Boston's EMS teams that night, and in the opening minutes of HBO's new true crime documentary Murder in Boston, we see footage of Chuck Stuart being loaded into an ambulance. "You see who did this?" a police officer asks him. Though he's suffering from a gunshot wound to the abdomen, Stewart's answer is clear: a black man. Black male. That's pretty much where the questions for Chuck Stuart stopped. Rather than drilling down on his vague story, the Boston Police Department launched an aggressive manhunt in the city's predominantly black neighborhoods of Mission Hill and Roxbury, terrorizing a community and exacerbating Boston's roiling racial tensions. Chuck's brother Matthew later confessed to police that Chuck killed Carol, possibly for the insurance money. Directed by Jason Hehir, The Last Dance, Murder in Boston, Roots, Rampage, and Reckoning gives voice to the people who were unjustly victimized by law enforcement and examines the legacy of that painful rush to judgment. Carol Stuart died on October 24, 1989, one day after Chuck's 911 call. Her son, Christopher, who was delivered by emergency C-section, lived only 17 days. The media, as it did with the Central Park jogger case 6 months earlier, accepted the police's version of events, and the story quickly vaulted into the national headlines. Through archival news footage and interviews with locals, Murder in Boston recounts the indiscriminate police raids that followed through the perspective of the black residents who endured them. "It was open season on black people," says Ron Bell, who grew up in Mission Hill. Adds author and Boston native Dart Adams, "When crimes happen in certain parts of Boston, we all fit the description." In the first of its 3 episodes, Murder pulls back to explore how Boston's history of turbulent race relations, specifically the 1974 school desegregation ruling, revealed a city that was just one inciting incident away from an explosion of violent animus. Hehir assembles an array of powerful archival footage featuring the brutal protests against forced busing and news interviews with white Bostonians whose blatant, confident racism is truly shocking, even for the 1970s. Interviews with students who lived through the riots, as well as lawyer and activist Ted Landsmark, who was famously beaten by a white student holding an American flag during an anti-busing protest, provide a vivid illustration of the fear and dread that was still so fresh for black Bostonians in 1989.